Chad, thank you for joining me on the Spirit Farm podcast.
Thank you for having me, Caleb. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and here is in our home studio, and we're kicking off season 3, and we're going to talk about all kinds of exciting things. Spirit Farm, subscription, the changes, the deal, your life, who you are. But first, we got to talk about these awesome scars on your knees. You have amazing scars on both of these knees. How did you get those injuries?
Yeah, there's some good stories there. Both the knees and then the wrists too, plated.
Plated?
Yeah, this one's plated, both sides with steel screws through on both sides to keep it together.
Awesome.
It's my bionic left hook.
Yeah. There's some strength there.
There's definitely is. And many others that are, obviously covered up at this point. But
metal or you
just scars from operations and stuff.
Wow.
Legs and feet and stuff like that.
From what?
So that all goes way back to, my childhood. Started racing motocross started riding dirt bikes when I was around 4, I think it was. And just got onto it, and it was one of those things that I picked up, and, I obviously had some sort of a gifting for it. And my mom was very into it and her friends, and we just picked it up as a sport. And
it was your mom that was into it.
My mom
your
was
mom's
into it.
Like, Chad, you're 4 now. Get on this motorized bike.
My dad was, he was never really into bikes, which was funny. He was more into horse racing, as a creation. That's what they like to do. But my mom had a friend whose son was really good. And so we started going to the races with them. And I got a bike at 4 and just started riding and, carried on from there. And I ended up having a great career right up until I think I was 24. That actually brought me out to America.
So from 4 to 24, 20 years of like serious competitive hardcore motocross?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, started at 4, obviously started racing, not as competitive. But by the time I was 7, 7, 8 years old, I was, it was full. That was all we did. Every single weekend. Every day after school, picked up off to the track. And it's really great. I mean, it served me well. Obviously, I got to travel, won many championships. So I'm very blessed in that sense. And it actually was the doorway that got me to come to the United States.
Okay, so many things. Most of these scars are from motocross?
All of them from motocross, yeah.
All of them?
Yep. It's one of those sports where it's like you never, you're not going fast enough unless you're crashing, unfortunately. So,
and not very forgiving.
Not very forgiving.
Are you doing turns and flips and stuff, or is it just speed and racing?
Well, I mean, this was all racing motocross. So none of the, like today, all the freestyle motocross, and that's now in vogue.
Okay.
And that's big. Wasn't really around at that time.
You were just racing other guys.
We were just racing, track racing, obviously, supercross, motocross, the indoor stuff and the outdoor stuff. And then we actually, part of the whole freestyle movement was we were at the forefront of that. Myself and a couple other guys that went on, Pastrana, Deegan, Mike Metzger. We all started riding together.
Really?
Like the very first part of that movement we were doing. It was, and we actually ended up making a video. It was called Crusty Demons of Dirt 1.
Crusty Demons of Dirt 1?
Yep. It was the first extreme motocross video ever. And it was very taboo because motocross, like we were sponsored and we really weren't meant to be doing anything outside of racing on the track because obviously it's dangerous, right? And you get paid to race motocross,
right?
Not to go goof off and, do big jumps and, backflips and all that kind of stuff.
What did it mean to be sponsored? When did you get sponsored? At what age?
So my first sponsorship came in, I think I was 9 years old.
9 years old. And what was that like? Like someone comes to your mom and dad and they're like, look, this guy has potential. We want to give him 10 grand if he'll wear this jersey, or how does that go?
So how that looked was basically I was riding already. I got obviously my parents had bought my first motocross bikes, and you go to the track like anything else. You're a privateer and you start racing and you start to show some promise. The teams that are there take notice of you. So at some point they approached my mom and my dad and said, hey, we'd like to, we see that Chad's obviously making progress. We've been watching him. And they offered us a sponsorship. What that looked like back then, and it was free bikes. So they'd pay for the bikes.
Which normally cost?
So, I mean, today they're a lot more expensive, but back then, like I was racing 80s, was probably around, $800 to $1,000.
Okay. Today it'd be what, 2,500?
Yeah, I mean, today if you buy a brand new 450, it's like 12 grand, 15 grand.
12 grand.
Yeah. And you have to have 2 bikes. because you need one to practice on and one to race on.
Oh.
So because you're practicing the whole week right up until the race, and obviously that bike's getting hammered because you put in hours and hours and hours on it. So you need the race bike that's obviously kept pristine, and that's the one that obviously has all the fancy parts and everything on it, so that the go fast parts. So yeah.
So started to get sponsored at 9, and they're buying you your bikes and your gear and whatever.
Buying you bikes, paying you prize money. So like if you finish first, second, third, prize money, paying you to win championships.
And you won championships. What kind of championships did you win?
I won my first championship was in 87. I was 11 years old. Won the 80cc South African championship, motocross, and the Supercross championship the same year.
So you were living in South Africa.
I was, yes.
That's where you grew up. And so was this the South African championship? That's like the competition for all of South African motocross?
Correct. Yeah. So that was like, that was the South African championship. So everyone in the whole country was competing, and you'd race at different locations around the country, and you'd race against other teams. So, back then, especially back then, motocross was a huge sport in South Africa.
Huh.
It's still big, but obviously not as big because things are so expensive these days. But it was a really big sport, and, it had a big following, and it had a lot of prestige too, which was amazing.
So at least in your age group, you were the best in your country.
And yeah, I was, definitely.
Yeah. And then what did you say the other one was that you want?
Supercross. So there's two different versions. One is like an outdoor track, really rough, rugged terrain, much faster than that. And then the other one's the indoor Supercross, which is a lot more jumps. So a lot more air, a lot more technical. So just two different series.
But you won them both.
Won them both in the same year, yeah.
Okay, so that 20 years of like that kind of intensity, that kind of, you're putting it all on the line, it's risky, it's dangerous, right? Then how did you transition out of that at 24 into doing what? Like what do you now do for a thrill? Why did you stop at 24? What was that like?
So there's a couple of different events that led up to that. Obviously raced, throughout my career in South Africa, won multiple championships in South Africa, won international Supercross championships, came over to America in 91. I'd previously come over and with my sponsor to race different events over here throughout the different years. Came over in 91 to pursue my career. Yeah.
Okay.
And, this is where it's all at. It's America. This is the mecca of motocross and supercross. So I came out here as a privateer at that point because I said to my dad, I want to go to America. I want to go do it there. So left everything behind in South Africa and came over to America.
By yourself or?
By myself. There was a friend of ours that was a previous motocross champion, Charlie Tisson and Kenny Ullman, that now lived here for many, many years. So I stayed with them initially, but all, privateer on my own. Thankfully, they helped me. So it was challenging. It was kind of scary too when you just arrive. America's a big place.
Yeah.
Right?
How old were you?
I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
And how did you stack up?
So, first came out, it's so different. When you're out here, it's so competitive. Like in South Africa, you'll have 3 or 4 people or 5 guys that are, the top 5 guys. And you're really racing those guys every single race. Yeah, when you get to America, there's 20 guys that are chasing you down. So, went through a process. First year or two was challenging, but landed up getting sponsored out here and, started making some headway. Finished second in the Mickey Thompson Championship. Qualified for the Supercross Series, raced some outdoor nationals, and then kind of transitioned, started doing freestyle. It had just started the movement. There were a bunch of snowboarders that were, getting paid to do videos, and they were the ones, Damian Sanders and Dana Nichols, that initiated the whole thing, surprisingly.
Really?
So we started doing that. And we would go out in our jeans, because it was kind of like the alternative now.
Yeah.
Just jeans and a t-shirt and just go do big, big jumps.
So you said you had natural talent that was kind of recognized. Your mom recognized at 4 years old. You obviously have that. There's something in it. What is it? Is it the eye-hand coordination? Is it what made you great at motocross?
I think you definitely have to have There's got to be some kind of inbred skill set that you get, like you said, hand-eye coordination, and just a feel for it. I think it's kind of like any other sport. You have that feel for being on a bike. Some people have the feel for hitting a golf club, but then you have to really work at it because there's a few people that obviously are just totally gifted, but it really came down to be honest, hard work. We would go every single day after school as a kid. We would be at the track practicing, and at first I would be with my mom, taking me and my dad on the weekends. And then later on, as you started getting sponsored, that transitioned into a coach. So you'd have your coach, and your coach would go out with you and obviously make sure that, every single day you're hitting your marks, training, physical fitness. And I think it's also just having a love for the sport. Like I really loved it. So the more you love it, the harder you work, the better you get.
Awesome. So you find yourself here at 19. Did you stay here? And then what was so 19 to 24, you're still doing motocross. You start doing the videos and the big jumps. And then what was the transition? What did you jump to next and why?
So I was racing and we started to do the videos, and I ended up having a bad accident. It was actually this knee, just to fast forward for that 4-year period. They had a lot happen, but we were really focused on doing these Crusty Demons of Dirt videos. And then I was racing for a team called Velvet Touch Honda. We were out racing, and we were up in Utah, and I had an unfortunate accident where I completely misjudged this triple jump. We jumped way over it, landed on the impact on the flat ground, and the impact from the landing exploded my patella tendon, like just ripped it, snapped it in half. So we had to. So at that point, I was faced with a decision because this was going to be a 9-month injury.
Jeez.
I was out here living on my own. So back then there was full cost, no driving, no getting around. And at that, I was living with 2 other guys I raced. So you're thinking, well, how am I going to get around? Your friends are going to be there for you for the first month or the first couple of weeks, but then they're going to be out doing their thing, and then you stuck at home. So
right. Pre-Uber, pre-iPhone,
no iPhones. So made the decision literally right at the moment I had this accident to fly home before even having the surgery.
Okay.
So my sponsor put me on a plane, came back from Utah, got on a plane, shot back to South Africa, had the surgery as I landed.
Oh, wow.
And then I was back. The intention was to go back for rehabilitation, go through the 9-month process, and then return back here. That landed up being a 4-year process.
4 years? Just
went through the healing, and it was just difficult to get back.
Yeah.
So that was in, I think it's 2006. No, 1996, sorry.
96.
Then when I went back. And just
it was till 2000 that you're still kind of repairing it.
Yeah, because I just never felt comfortable coming. Just when I thought it was, you get hurt, and then it was just a long process. And I was like, perhaps maybe I should start my life back there. And we actually, at that point, started a sunglass company in South Africa called Black Flies, which was an American sunglass company. They were one of my sponsors. And we got the rights for the Southern Hemisphere too.
I remember Black Flies.
Yeah.
I had some Black Flies. So that would have been late 90s?
Late 90s, yeah. They were blowing up at that time.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They had a hockey stick kind of trajectory. A bunch of my friends had them. And then so you went to work for them, or you had the rights to them in South Africa?
Yeah, so we got the rights to be their distributor, the sole rights for South Africa. So we started, when I was back injured, myself and 2 friends of mine we started selling the product, making some inroads. Obviously, we knew a lot of people in South Africa, and that's what actually ended up keeping me there longer. The brand it just blew up. We ended up getting some big chain stores, and before you knew it, we were the second largest sunglass company behind Oakley in the extreme sports division. So the whole music scene had just started, and at those times, those big raves was all happening, and we were promoting them because we had this affiliation with America. So that affiliation obviously helped us open up a lot of doors, and everything was just going exceptionally well.
So you got that gig because you were good at motocross, and you had this relationship with a sponsor.
Correct.
And then you were very successful at it. Obviously, Black Flies and whatever they were doing internationally and here in the U.S. had something to do with it. But did you realize at that time, early 20s or whatever it was, that you had good business sense? What did you discover about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was always in the back of my mind. Even when I was going through racing motocross, my dad was always very stuck on the fact that without education, you can't, if your grades drop, your motocross stops. Like, I don't care if you're sponsored or not. That's just the way it is. So he was always, behind the scenes making sure. So I went through school, I did exceptionally well, went through business school, that got my business degree.
Back there,
yeah. And then, so I always had a knack for it, and I was always excited about it. And I always knew at some point that I'd transition into business. I think when I arrived in America, I realized without the full backing, just as showing up, it's really difficult to, at that later stage, because even though it's still young, 19's not that young in that sport. Like, your career's,
right?
19 to 25. So I was already starting to look around and see, like, what's the next opportunity.
Okay. And so what happened with Black Flies? It's taken off, it's doing great, and then...
So Black Flies did exceptionally well for us right up until... And then I just started getting this desire to get back to America.
Huh.
And we were still, the company was still running fine. My mom worked in the company, my sister, my brother. It was, a family organization at that time.
Family operation.
Family operation. That has pros and its cons.
I'm sure.
But I was, at that time, I actually wanted to exit the business and sell it to come back to America. But, my whole family was part of the company now. And that was what they were doing.
It was their revenue.
So, and when I approached my dad with it and said, I'm going to sell the company because I want to go back to America and pursue that dream, he wasn't really, too keen on that.
Huh.
So I chose to leave it behind. And my sister, with my sister, my mom, and they landed up running it for the next couple of years until they eventually exited out of it. I returned to America.
So you came back with what in mind?
So myself and I had actually met up with a friend of mine, Martin Kirsten.
Our friend Martin Kirsten. Yeah.
Yep, the story thickens.
I call him he's been on the podcast, the bodyguard of the stars.
That's Martin, yeah. A really good friend. And we were having conversations back then. Martin was, like I said, Black Flies was really a social thing. We're doing a lot of club promotions, and Martin he was involved in certain parts of that, industry back then. So but we started talking, and I said to him, I'm coming back to America, you should come with me. And he just made that decision to come. So we started looking, all right, well, when we go back, what are we going to do? So we looked into, African art at that time. So you go, 2 South Africans looking into African art. It was a big industry, everyone was excited about it. So we ended up putting together a whole container of African art and just like statues and, the stone sculptures. We went around, and Martin did a lot of the footwork of actually finding the product and that.
Didn't you sell a bunch in Arizona, actually?
We did. Yeah, Martin and I used to make this drive, on a weekly basis.
From LA to Arizona.
Yeah.
And so the Africans are selling African art on the West Coast primarily, or in the West, kind of California?
Primarily on the West Coast. We just go door to door.
Okay, so you're doing that. Fast forward, when did you start investing? Because you have a knack for the investment side of things.
Yeah, so while we we're going through that process, I reconnected with a friend of mine, Tom Jant, who was a stockbroker. And we had always been talking about, doing some stuff together at that time. And we had transitioned from the art. I was doing call centers too with another friend of mine. We had started doing, we had opened up some call centers.
And when you say open up some call centers, that means you're starting a business that has a bunch of people at desk taking calls.
Correct.
And at that time, were they in the U.S.? Because now there are other places.
Yeah,
right?
they were all in the U.S. Like, outsourcing wasn't really a big thing back then.
Right.
And it was actually through a friend of ours that was doing Dish Network. So we're doing all the activations for Dish Network back then. And so we did that. And then through that process, I was already speaking to Tom Jant. He was in the process of starting a financial service company. I was one of his first investors into that, and became the third largest shareholder in that company. And through that process, was my entry into the financial service business with him.
And financial service business. So what did that look like? You are finding people and you're going to manage their money for them, and you're investing it in the markets.
Yeah, so they had so Tom and them. That's basically what they were doing. They were running. They had the fund. They would manage other people's money. From my side, I was looking at more from the raising capital and doing reverse mergers. So we
What
would
is
take
that?
reverse merger is when you basically take a publicly traded company that's gone defunct, and you reverse out the assets. So because that business is no longer viable, so you take that company out, but you still have a shell of a company that's still trading, but it's got no asset in it. At the same time, you'll reverse a different company into that. So you'll put a new company in that is doing well. And the reason you do that is because obviously that's a faster way to go public than to go through all the different filings.
I'm nodding my head, but I don't totally understand. You're a little bit beyond me, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
So you're doing that awesome thing with, making the business thing work, and it's a part of this firm that is managing other people's money. What did you find that you were particularly good at in that space? Because you're still investing. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Your instincts, how you kind of analyze the world and investments, what to do now, what's going to happen. I just feel like you're really brilliant when it comes to that kind of stuff. When did you notice that, and how did you kind of navigate in that space in those early days?
I think that's when I started digging into it. One of my I had a really good knack of two things. Obviously, identifying opportunities in the sense of what's the whole investing cycle goes through different ebbs and flows. So seeing at what particular time in that cycle different companies are working. Is it financial service companies? Is it mining companies? Is it consumer staples? Whatever it might be. At that particular part. In 2008, 2006 to 2008, a lot of it was also mining. So it was gold mines, silver mines, actually uranium. So we were identifying that, and then also a good knack in with regards to understanding value and being able to negotiate the deal to come to these companies and see exactly, do an analysis and see what they need, and then obviously be able to negotiate a deal that made sense to us as a company to be able to help them. And most of the times they needed capital.
Yeah. So that whole investment world got sideways for you. What went wrong?
So that's was the part of the journey of life, right? So we got to the point where we were doing a lot of different deals. We were at that point we were really successful, making a lot of money.
Were you in Orange County?
In Orange County, and we were just. It's kind of like, and when I look back at that time, I think a lot of it came out of the. When you're racing motocross, your entire life's consumed by the excitement of the race and the practicing and the thrill.
Yeah.
And
the adrenaline.
And suddenly when that gets ripped out of your life, there's this massive void, that's not filled at that time. So for me, this business took that place, and the excitement of the next deal and the bigger deal and being more successful. And, you start putting these benchmarks that, you raised X amount, you want to raise this much, or you did, the company was this successful, the stock price went to there. And it becomes like an all-consuming thing. Yeah. And it actually just eats away at you, where eventually you get to the point, which is where I got to, where it really wasn't about money or anything. It was just about the next deal. The feeling of making that deal happen, the excitement, and you literally just got it, and you're already moving on to the next one.
There's no fulfillment. There's no satisfaction. It's just what's next.
What's next? Yeah.
What's next? In an obsessive kind of way.
In an obsessive kind of way, yeah.
And then, so what started to happen in you?
So we were doing reverse mergers at that time, and obviously, like a reverse merger, a lot of that was we were looking at started promoting the stock, which means we were creating the market for it, and we were actually out there pushing it and getting people to invest in the thing. And we just started crossing lines, just because we wanted to be more and more successful ethically. So we were doing, we would be controlling too much of the stock so we could control the pricing, in essence, because we just wanted to be successful, and that all ended really badly, like it always does.
And like the thing shut down.
Well, I mean, it turned into a big issue because I landed up getting indicted for it. We were 2010, we were on the top of the world, in essence, in our minds, which really wasn't. When you look back on your journey, you were trapped in this cycle of never finding fulfillment and constantly chasing the next thing, never getting where you wanted to be. But at that point, it felt like you were on top of the world, right?
Yeah.
But
all kinds of money.
Yeah, all kinds of money.
Flying private, doing whatever.
And then, out of the blue, without even any, it just happened like overnight. We ended up getting indicted for one of the deals we had done. And that was 2010. And at that point, everything just collapsed. The entire world around me collapsed.
Did you lose everything at that time?
Lost everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
So was that like a rock bottom that all right, and how'd you come out of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long process. So it was like the rock bottom, the instant, just shock of what had happened.
Yeah.
Then it was a long process from 2010, going through the motions of obviously dealing with all this and, going through court cases and all the rest of that stuff, through a process from 2010 right up until end of 2017. It's like 7 years, and even after that, still having to deal with it now up until the end of this year. So it's been a 10-year journey.
10-year journey, and you're free, and it's behind you at the end of this year.
At the end of this year, correct? Yeah,
that'll feel good.
That will feel great. But it's been a great. I mean, when I look back, it's been a journey that, in 2010, I was on my, your moral compass gets kind of skewed, and when you just focused on, your own success and chasing that next deal, whatever, you never ever truly find fulfillment. And I never really had a spiritual connection in 2010. I mean, I had obviously, a brief encounter with God and stuff like that, but 2010 was a humbling experience, brought me to my knees. And it really was the start of my Christian walk at that point, 2010. And that's grown over these last 10 years. And my relationship with God's become so intimate and personal. And I've seen miracles happen throughout these last 10 years things that we never thought were possible. So I've actually seen, and that's what's amazing when you look back and you can actually see, when you're in the midst of the fire, you can't see it.
Can't see it.
But when you look back, you can see, wow, that was all God that brought you through that.
Yeah, that even the worst of things and the most painful times in life that you would never want to go through again, and that you would not want anyone that you love to go through. But you look at it now and you're like, oh, God totally used that.
Totally used it.
I am who I am because of that. Like I wouldn't have learned, I wouldn't have become who I am. So as you look at that now, are there a couple of handles that you can hold on to and say, man, God did this, and I live this way now, or I discovered this, or I pursued that now? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many of those. Looking back, one thing that I draw strength on is knowing that, you look back and see like, well, God, you brought me through this journey from the pit, like from the bottom of the pit, when I never thought I would ever be able to sit here in this situation, be able to have this conversation, and through all these different, situations in life, and you can see His hand. So now when I face something, I always know that, there's nothing that He can't do.
Yeah.
So I have I walk with strong faith, and obviously making sure that your moral compass is aligned. And it's a challenge on a daily basis, because obviously we live in a world there's all kinds of temptations around you all the time, right?
Still seductive. Right?
So you got to stay grounded, obviously prayer, meditation, staying focused on, relationships and people that you hang around with.
Well, the other thing is that we need money. Like we need a certain amount of money to live, and you still live in Orange County, which is expensive to live. So how do you think about I work hard, I want to make a good living, I want to provide for my loved ones in the future without becoming obsessive again? How do you navigate that tension of I want to use money instead of it use me?
That's an interesting question, because I think that's a struggle, and it's almost like it's a tug of war, because we stay very grounded. And for me, it's like being focused on my spirituality, right? Being focused on my daughter, and then working hard because you need money and wanting to provide for them, and also wanting to work ethically in a way that benefits the people you work with and everyone around you. So that's important. But you still have sometimes you'll still have
Feel
this
that
pull that's
pull.
like you want more, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I want that. I want to be, I want that house. I want that car.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just being mindful of where you came from and how quick and easy that can consume you.
Yeah.
And then what the pain and suffering that comes along with that.
Yeah.
Then I just revert straight back and say, Lord, please forgive me for that.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah.
Because I can't do it.
Well, and having those daily routines does make a huge difference.
Daily routines, being connected, having someone in your life that speaks directly into your life.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of different people, spiritual mom, Dr. Judy, that speaks into my life on a weekly basis. She's walked through this process with me for 10 years. So when things feel a little off center, I'll call her and we'll chat and she'll walk me through the process.
Dr. Judy, she's like a 70-year-old woman, right? And she's your spiritual mom.
Yeah, she's 72 now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I met her in 2010.
Unreal.
And we walked this journey together, and I've been part of her ministry too for the whole 10 years. Not 10. I met her in 2012. Sorry.
Yeah.
But just being part of that, and obviously being focused on giving back instead of just focusing on yourself. Right?
Yeah. That's where I wanted to pivot, because I've seen you invest in Dr. Judy's stuff, and you have helped her start a podcast, and you have helped her sustain her ministry. You have helped her raise money. You have helped her move into the 21st century kind of technologically. I am sure that she's done a ton for you, but you've done a ton for her as well.
Yeah. I mean, we've fed off each other. I think it's been amazing. I mean, she's an amazing woman. At 72, I mean, for her 70th birthday, she jumped out of a plane.
Come on.
I mean, she's got a spirit, that's just so it's infectious when you're around her.
Huh.
So, so we worked together definitely and helped structure that to get it to a position where it can obviously grow in this new environment. And I think that's a big part of what the intrigue about Spirit Farm too is.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Chad, because I wanted to thank you. I am so grateful that you have taken a personal investment into this work. And Martin had been telling me for literally years, like even before 2 years ago when I had the massive pivot away from the traditional church to Spirit Farm. Even prior to that, Martin was telling me, you've got to meet Chad. You've got to get together with Chad. I just have this feeling that you two are supposed to do something, right? And then it took us a long time before that actually happened and we sat down. But then we started talking about it, and then it took some more time. And then we actually started getting into it. And in the last few months, man, you have really helped me. You have really helped me understand more of the digital space. You've really helped me with marketing. You are now like heavily invested personally, even financially, in Spirit Farm, where we're at, where we're going, and you're making it better. And I'm just really grateful for that. And I'm really excited that you view your journey, the good, the bad, and the ugly, your genius, as being able to be leveraged for good, and that you can use how God has made you and wired you and the things that he's given you to kind of multiply and impact a lot of people. And I know that we're going to impact a lot of people. And I have a renewed sense of faith, excitement, and enthusiasm, in large part because you jumping in and saying, oh, no, here's how we can do that. Oh, you've been trying to do it that way. Yeah, let's try it this way. Let's build this over here. And I have some guys that can, make this happen and make this work. And it's getting exciting, man. From your standpoint, what are you excited about as it relates to Spirit Farm and the trajectory that you think that we'll be on?
I mean, to go back to where you started with that, Martin, I remember Martin saying that clearly. And I remember coming when I first met you and, you spoke when you had just started this process. And I don't even think you had started it. It was still just an idea because you were like, this is what we think,
Yeah.
And even at that point, it resonated because I look at people like myself and Martin, and then obviously I've come to know you. We've always been spiritually connected, but a lot of us don't resonate with the structure of the church world the way it is today. And, Not that it's bad or whatever. It's just there's a lot of people, I believe, like us that are looking for something different that's more like within that stream. And when you spoke of the Spirit Farm, I was like, wow, that's perfect. That's exactly what it is. It's casual. It's heart-centered. It's about, more than just, beating people down what they need to do. It's about how to help them grow. Like, how do we make you, develop your spirituality in the world that we live in today?
Yeah.
Like, this is a real world and there's real things happening.
Yeah.
So the concept was amazing and it started resonating. And I know there's some time before you and I got together, but I just feel, especially now in the environment we're in right now, there's such a need for people. There's so many people today that are unchurched. There's so many people that have fallen away from it just because, different things that have happened and whatever it might be. And I believe a lot of people are consuming content online. And I think the way you bring your message across and your voice is heard resonates with so many people like myself, Martin, and many, many other friends of ours. So I'm excited. I think, honestly, the trajectory for Spirit Farm, I think, is undefined at this point, because every single person at some point will want to be on Spirit Farm.
And you've helped me to articulate better and get even my mind around the potential for it really to be a platform for, yes, my voice, but also other people's voices.
Correct.
That we're engaging wellness at another level. I've talked a lot about wholeness and body, mind, heart, and soul, but really to double down on that and have exercise videos, which is starting now, and in the subscription model, and kind of get into the yoga, get into the Pilates, get into the body weight, whatever people can do right in their homes, right? And I think that that's going to be significant. But I think the opportunity with things going digital in this COVID era, and people being hungry for growth, but wanting their spiritual walk to integrate into the rest of their life, into their fitness routine, into their finances, into their work life. And so you have emboldened me to this kind of inkling of a vision that I've seen, which really had to do with a subscription a while back. I was nervous to pull the trigger, and you've emboldened me and kind of helped me create that path. And so we're launching that. Like,
it's exciting.
Like right when this podcast comes out, thespiritfarm.com is a landing page where people can go to, and then the links, it'll be obvious to sign up for the platform, for the subscription, for membership into Spirit Farm. And it's going to be awesome. And then from there, even coaching opportunities. I'm coaching people right now, but there's going to be other coaches that are going to be coaching more people. And then I can just really see how this could grow and spread and impact a lot of folks in meaningful ways.
In a meaningful way. And I think what you're saying right there, Caleb, it's the platform, right? So we're establishing the whole concept behind the Spirit Farm is to establish a platform that other people with their voice can come and collaborate with the Spirit Farm.
Right.
And that's how it starts to grow, because your voice is amazing, but other people resonate with other people's voice.
Sure.
So we're not saying this. We want to create a platform. Well, we are creating a platform where people can come and consume content about their spirituality, their success, their health, their fitness, all of that. But they can consume it in a way they want to consume it, and from the person that they want. So we're going to collaborate with these people, and we're going to deliver content that's relevant.
Yeah.
Because, like I said to you, success, and many, many people can tell you the same story. I'm sure you've interviewed them. There's a part inside you that will never, ever, ever be fulfilled without that spiritual connection.
That's right.
So you can be as successful as you want, or you can have as much money, but until you find that, like you said, because everything is spiritual.
Right.
So until you make that connection that your success is spiritual, your health is spiritual, your relationships are spiritual.
Yeah.
And when you get that, then you find success, peace.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're looking at doing.
Yeah. That God gave you this life, and that anytime you're growing, anytime you're experiencing those things, that we're doing that with God, that we're connected to God's Spirit all the time. It's all spiritual, and it's fun, man. It's fun to be on this journey. I'm really grateful for you and to you, and excited about this next season of growth. What else? You got a beautiful 13-year-old daughter. What else are you excited about going forward as you've kind of refined your business endeavors? And I'm so grateful that Spirit Farm is kind of on that path for you and one of those things. What else are you excited about on your trajectory going forward?
Obviously I have a daughter's 13, which I'm really excited about that and scared at the same time.
Sure.
We spend a lot of time together. We have an amazing relationship. And I'm excited to watch her grow, to see her just develop as a person. From a business perspective, one of the things that I learned through this process was I was always chasing everything. Like there was never a deal that I didn't want to do. I could never say no. Yes. So part of my journey now is to trim the tree and to find those, businesses and ventures and partnerships to work with people that are going to bring fulfillment, but are going to be aligned with what we said, with our core belief, which is helping people grow and, creating a platform where people can come and learn skill sets and that. So to do that, we, like your platform that we're working on right now, is to build tools. So we're building digital tools, influencer sites, and different platforms that we can use to help push, people into these communities that we're talking about. Yeah. Because, you get on Facebook and you can get lost. So our whole goal is technology, build tools and applications that can be used. And me personally, I'm always excited about investing. You
wake up every morning at about 4:30, right?
Yeah,
one of the first things you do is like, what's going on, and
catch up and see what's going on. And we live in a world that's so exciting because things are moving so rapidly. I mean, you have to be on top of it if you want to stay in that space. So at this current moment, it's really just for myself. But in the future, what I'd love to do and I see is creating some kind of vehicle where we can invest in businesses and help businesses that are aligned with what we believe in. So let's say Spirit Farm, right? People that have the same beliefs in us, that are looking to help other people, bring messages to them that, that are uplifting, that help change their lives, being, some kind of venture capital fund or something that can help invest into people and in their businesses to help them succeed by giving them not only the tools, but helping them get access to the funding.
Yeah, and connections.
And that's something that at some point, like we've discussed, we'd like to, this is the bigger picture of what we're talking about with Spirit Farm, right? There's so many things, like these are modules that we can add on. So the first step, I think what we're excited about right now is the launch of the Spirit Farm subscription, and then building a community of people, building that community, that beehive. And then in that, we'll find how to help those people in other ways.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. And it's fun. It's fun to talk about this stuff with you. It's fun to learn from you. One of the things I appreciate about you and Martin too, maybe it's a South African thing. Maybe it's just you guys and one of the reasons why you're good friends, but like you have such a high level of expertise in business, but also in investing specifically, but you don't mind like talking down, but like you don't mind trying to get it into my language and helping me understand. It doesn't frustrate you. You're like, yeah, you don't know a third of what I know, but I'll talk to you about it and kind of bring you up. I appreciate that about you too. And it's fun, dude. It's fun. Yeah. And so I thank you for coming to the home. Thank you for having being on the podcast, and thank you for how you're helping to catalyze Spirit Farm, thespiritfarm.com. Fun things in store.
Thanks, Chad.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Caleb.